So the first Descendant is getting close to its full release very soon, and with it comes a brand new open beta ahead of launch. There has been a plethora of changes that you may have missed over the past 7 months, so in this video, we're going to be talking about just that. Let's begin. What is up everybody, welcome back to Fervor Gaming, where you can stay up to date on the latest in gaming. This includes news, builds, and guides just like you see in today's video. If you like the content you see here today and want to help the channel out, drop me a like to get this video out to other gaming fans, but if it wasn't for you, change it to a dislike. So yeah, for the better part of the last 7 months, the first Descendant team has been actively updating and improving the game. A lot of what the improvements was based on the feedback that was received during the open beta back in September. Since then, while things with the first Descendant has been rather quiet, the team has been slowly but surely updating the game with some very key changes. Much of this was in response to many players' feedback, but the major points were performance, quality of life, grappling hook improvements, story-based changes, tons of open world improvements, and overall just reworking some of the less than stellar things that I and many players would have liked to see improvements on. So let's go over those with the dev notes, starting with Dev Note Volume 7. This dev note didn't have a ton of improvements, but more of an acknowledgement of what changes need to come. Here are the major points though, the first being the overhaul to the open world. We significantly made changes to the fields in order to minimize the area where battles occur. We have divided the fields into smaller sections and incorporated a variety of new non-mission content in between. This includes out of combat content and enemies that defend their bases regardless of missions. This increased the density of content in the field with such changes. We're also working on increasing the density of players in a given space to facilitate co-op play. We're making adjustments so that it will be more likely to run into other players who are on the same mission, and dungeons now have matchmaking for smooth co-op play. It will also be possible to bring other players into your current mission through the request for help feature, so there's going to be more multiplayer support than before. The next improvements were on modules, and while not heavily touched on, the team said this: in order to guarantee that every Descendant will have a unique module setting at launch, and that the same Descendant may have multiple module settings depending on their playstyle or main skill, we're making a number of changes. Now for those of you who really are into the looks of your Descendant, the team said this about character's appearance: we also put a lot of work on the character appearance because the first Descendants is a character collection game. We took note of what players found appealing about the characters, particularly from the crossplay open beta test, improved their shortcomings and amplify their strength to make them more appealing. We worked very hard to display the backside of the characters in greater details during the crossplay open beta test because this is a third-person shooter. A very base statement, I would say, but a very great thing to see from the team. Finally, about the in-game, the team said this: for the launch, we're creating more in-game content in addition to intercept void battles. The fields will now feature hard difficulty. Better loot will be available on higher tier of difficulty when the main story and all 8 fields have been completed. All dungeons will have a system that support matchmaking. Dungeons of hard difficulty will also have a system where you can choose penalty options to challenge yourself to even more harder environments. And on a side note, this update actually made improvements to the grappling hook. They didn't necessarily touch on that too much, but it's better from what they said. So while this wasn't the biggest in terms of update, Dev Note 7 came jam-packed with a lot of great changes. Now fast forward to February the 28th of 2024, and we got Dev Note Volume 7. This update dropped a plethora of updates mainly focused on the open world, which a lot of us really want to see some improvements on, starting with encrypted vaults. These vaults are strewn across the field, carrying information and resources that the manager have hidden away. Descendants will be able to locate and decrypt them using a simple minigame to gain rewards. As out of combat content, this will be a welcome change to pace in between playing the fields. So while this isn't a combat focused update, it does add to the world in a way that I think is actually fairly healthy for the game, and it gives you a little bit of downtime between missions. Now don't worry, the team did add void fragments and void fusion reactors, and void fragments can only be destroyed by an attack of a matching attribute, which will give you a void charge. You basically put these inside of a void reactor, and then a Vulgus commander is summoned, which rewards you with various rewards. On top of this, we got new content in the form of Vulgus recon outposts. These outposts are scattered around the area and vary in size depending on the importance. Scouts monitor the field, beginning with the smallest of outposts. Players will frequently encounter and go into battle with them as they explore the fields. The large outposts, on the other hand, house massive power units to investigate the Ironheart and transmit battle data back to their base. Because of their significance, they are guarded by Vulgus garrisons. When a Descendant discover an outpost, they are automatically assigned the mission to destroy it. And finally, with Dev Note 8, it came with records. This is functionally a collectible screen with lore and a few other menus that you would expect from a collectible type menu. Within Dev Note 8, this wasn't really expanded upon. We got that in 9, which we're going to read in a second. And the dungeons we spoke about in Dev Update 7, we actually got a little bit more detail. You're able to change the difficulty of the dungeon you previously encountered, but most importantly, you can target farm specific resources if you increase the difficulty to at least hard. And the drops are in fact on rotation, and you can actually see how much time is left to farm them, so it's pretty convenient within the UI. This was pretty much one of the bigger updates, as it bring a lot to the open world, which was in my opinion the weakest part of the first Descendant. But again, some massive improvements, a lot of small ones, but they're actually adding up to being really great for the open world. Finally, this brings us to the dev update from Tuesday, or April the 2nd for those who are not watching this the week I post this, which is a ton of UI improvements and loadout options. From the image that was shown, we were able to basically save up to 14 Descendant loadouts, which is pretty nice, and the loadout will include the modules, the weapon layout, pretty much all put into one slot per slot that you actually use. And this can actually be swapped at any time, I believe, to that specific Descendant, as long as you're not in combat. For the preset function though, you will need to go back to Albion or to the camp to swap, but again, a massive quality of life improvement. For the majority of the menus, this means weapons, modules, upgrading module screen, things like that. All this have been updated to be more clear on what things do and how they are affecting your character. One of the biggest complaints was the clarity of menus and what exactly things did. Not everyone knew how things function, so for new players or newer players into the genre, this should be very easy and way less painful. This actually extended to the rewards earned by doing various tasks in the open world as well, so once again improving the clarity of the rewards earned during certain tasks. And to expand on the library, in the previous Dev Note 8, the library will be able to be used to help you keep track of what resources are needed for specific upgrades, which will be displayed on the HUD to reduce the need to travel back to Albion to check, as well as reduce the need to open up more menus, which functionally is massive quality of life improvements that was definitely needed in the game. Overall, for the past couple of months, the team over at the first Descendant has been actively and consistently improving the game. They took what seemed to be a lot of the feedback that the community gave them and straight up implemented it into the game. If you weren't aware though, there will be another open beta test leading into the launch very soon. This is meant to be before the full launch in the summer, so it shouldn't actually be that long from now. Of course, I will be live streaming the open beta as well as the actual launch, and if you want to be here every step of the way, over on the Twitch channel, I will have a live countdown timer the moment we get news on either of those days, so head on over there and check it out and follow the channel. The link to that as well as all the dev notes will be down in the description. Anyways, that is pretty much it for this video today. Don't forget to drop me that like we talked about at the beginning of the video to help get this video out to other Descendants, and the video on screen now goes over what you should be excited for the upcoming launch of the first Descendant. Check it out.